We joined Gaming Tech on the last live stream to celebrate this new Lilium HDR analysis tool, and luckily we had Lilium on the chat. And we were talking about some new features to add to these analysis tools to help us figure out the best settings for HDR, especially for the consoles where you cannot change the picture using reshade. Because here on the PC, we have many shaders that we can use with reshade to change the picture, to fix the HDR. And when we make a change, we see the change happening here on the graph. So in that way, we know for sure if we are fixing the black levels and all of that. But on the console, you have to rely on the TV settings. So, okay, you see that there's a black level raised, you need to lower the black level of your TV, but you don't know if you're lowering exactly as much as you need, because this graph is not gonna change because you lower the screen brightness on your TV or the fine-tune dark areas option on these LG OLEDs or the shadows option on the S95C or the EOTF, all of that. So we need some test patterns that to help us set up the display settings. So test patterns that are HDR and that are responding to the game HDR. So if the game HDR is messed up and we have black level rays, we can see that black level rays on the test pattern, so we know that we have to lower that. And yeah, Lilium, the creator of this app, he said, no problem, I can do that very easily. That's awesome. But I forgot to mention, and this is of course for him, if he's watching this video, would be great. I forgot to mention that sometimes this shader that I've been using to lower the black level, this shader is called PROD8003 curved levels. Sometimes this shader doesn't work right, or just by using the shader you get black level rays for some reason. I don't know why it happens. Sometimes you just turn it on and you get black level rays just by turning it on. And sometimes, like on this game, it doesn't work. If you use the shader, something weird is happening and you're like cutting the information, the highlight information of the game, so I cannot even use it. So take a look at these highlights here. If I use the shader, boom, it cuts everything below to 80 for some reason. And this is the same thing that happens when I use this HDR analysis tool to analyze auto HDR. The max CLL is cut to 80. So I don't know why that's happening on this game. Maybe because this game is kind of auto HDR really and not native HDR. But actually this game HDR seems to be pushing the colors to DCI-P3 and even BT2020 very hard. So I'm not sure about that. But the thing is, my point is that this doesn't work sometimes. And it would be great if the creator of this tool, Lilium, if you could make it a similar shader, but that it works actually. That we know is gonna work more consistently and it's not gonna have issues. And I know for sure he knows how to do that because there is a tone mapping option, is Lilium's tone mapping option that has black level control settings. When you use the tone mapping called BT2390, we have here the option to fix the black level. It is called source black point, target black point. So basically we can select here the source black point if it is raised, and then the target would be 0 and you fix the black level. But for this to work, you need to use this tone mapping option, and this tone mapping option is not the best option all the time. It might be perfect for some games, but some other games I don't even want to use it. So it would be great to have these options, these black level options for all three tone mapping options if that's possible. I'm not sure why it is only available in this BT2390 and it is not available on DICE and it is not available in BT2446. Maybe there is a technical reason that I'm not aware of, but if it would be possible to have this black level control for all the 3-tone mapping options that we have. That would be great. And the best would be to have just a dedicated shader to the black level, because this is the most important thing to get right, the black level. If we don't get the black level right, we cannot fix the HDR. This is the most important thing. We see in a game like this, the black level is usually over 1 nit, okay? Very, very, it's terrible. And this HDR is actually, it has a lot of potential. It's a very, very powerful HDR that we have in this game. This is Immortal Phoenix Rising. So the other thing is that I discovered, I was mentioning on the live stream, that sometimes I see like a noise on the graph. Let me make this graph bigger so you can see this. Sometimes I see a noise here on this graph, like a shakiness. And I understand, you know, we're not going to get a perfectly clean picture on the game. So this is not a problem of the graph, Lilium told me. And it makes sense because I actually discovered how to fix it somehow. Take a look at this graph right now. How it looks. It is very stable. We have some movements here, but it makes sense because the picture is changing, and because we see, for example, here on the water, these highlights are like changing all the time. It's like tick, 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 tick. So it makes sense that we see this movement here on the graph. But take a look at this. When I turn on anti-aliasing, you will see that the picture, the graph gets even noisier. And of course, I have to play this game with anti-aliasing on, because otherwise it just, you know, these latest games, if you don't use TAA, the picture looks kind of broken, unfortunately. So I have to use anti-aliasing to actually play the game. But to analyze the HDR, I recommend you to turn off anti-aliasing completely, especially if it's TAA, because take a look at the difference. I'm going to turn on anti-aliasing and you will see how that graph becomes a lot noisier. You see I have anti-aliasing off right now. I'm gonna turn it to high and you will see I applied that. Take a look now at the graph. Look at all the noise. So now we have false reading, not false reading. Now I am reading minimum CLL 0, and it's because that anti-aliasing. It is not because of the game. Let me increase the size of this so you can see it better. Now take a look at this. You see how much you see all this noise in the bottom of the signal? That is because TAA. If I turn off TAA, that doesn't happen. So that is giving me the false impression that the game doesn't have the black level race, because I see here minimum CLL 0 nits. I'm not sure if you can see that. Let me move the camera. You can see that. See? I see here minimum CLL 0. Okay? And that's not what it is. The game doesn't have perfect blacks. And it's because of the anti-aliasing, and you can see it here on the graph. So yeah, this is something that you have to do, because the games, they are just noisy. Okay? And it's because the anti-aliasing, for some reason, is causing that issue. So I'm gonna go back again to no anti-aliasing so you see the difference. It is something that I discovered here on this game, but I'm sure this happens with almost every single game. You see the noise and the crappiness, the blurriness that we see with TAA is reflected here on the graph. So now you see, I turned that off, and now you see minimum CLL 0.5 or 0.6. The game has a black level race. And of course, now it's daytime, but you saw the nighttime was also looking raised, and even more raised than this daytime. Now let me increase the size of the histogram, the brightness histogram. Now take a look at this. It's completely clean. Okay, almost perfectly clean. See? There's not that noise that was close to 0 is no longer there. And now we can actually see that there is a black level race. So to test the HDR with this tool, you want to get the cleanest picture possible. So if the game has a film grain, you want to turn that crap off, That's what Lilium told me, that some of these games are using film grain. It's not. It was not like film grain in game on and off or force film grain. He was talking about a film grain that has to do with the textures or something like that. It is like basically noise that is actually on the picture. It's a noise on the picture, and this graph is sensitive to all of that. So I mean, this graph would be also maybe an indicative of how clean the picture is. If you don't see any kind of noise, it's completely perfectly clean graph, maybe that would be a good indicative of how clean the picture is. Like if you have raw pixels, no post-processing garbage, everything is perfectly clean, maybe this graph is gonna look perfect too. But yeah, TAA is completely messing up that near black reading. So those games that have forced TAA, I would have to go and just get a mod to remove TAA completely, or just eyeball the near black. I can't easily eyeball the near black because I see where the noise and the interference is anyway, so I can just lower the black level just to see the signal that I'm supposed to see. And of course, at the end of the day, we have to use our eyes to fix the HDR anyway. But that would be great if Lilium can create a shader specifically and exclusively to control the black level, to do the same thing we do with this PROD80. And of course, you know, if it can have more precision, that would be better. But you see, in this case, in this game, for some reason, when I just activate that shader, look at this, it just cuts everything, and it lowers the black level because I have this black point here lowered, you see. But if I don't have that, you see it's the same. The only thing that's happening when I activate this shader is boom, everything gets cut down to 80 nits for some reason. The max CLL is 80. I don't understand why that's the case, but I think it has to do with this being like an auto HDR game or something like that, because that's what happens with auto HDR games. On the graph looks like auto HD, like 80 nits, it looks like this. So yeah, it would be great to have a shader like this that we can just increase the black point number and reduce the black level, so we make sure that we don't have black level rays. And of course, if we have more controls, like here on this shader, we have the option to control. We have this. This looks terrible because I'm using this shader, but just want to show you this this graph, which is very useful. I would like to have something like this, but created by him, so we make sure it works. Something like this thing that's a line that you can change with these numbers here. This curve, we can change everything. We can change the midtones, we can change near black. So this is a very cool shader. It's just not working here on this game, and in some games it's just not working at all for some reason. You just turn it on and you get black level rays. So it would be great to have something like that. And of course, what we talk about on the live stream, have some test patterns, near black, midtones, and highlights. And it would be amazing if we can have those test patterns responding to the HDR on the game, and then have the same test pattern that's a reference that is not responding to the HDR on the game. So for example, to have like a black picture on one side that's responding to the game, and a black picture on this side that is the reference. So we lower the black level until we have perfect blacks. And on these OLEDs, when you turn off the lights, it is very easy to notice when the blacks are perfect, because we have no light coming out from the screen. It's perfect black. It's very easy to notice that. So that's a very useful test pattern. And it also would be great to see like some of the grayscale, like the lower end of the grayscale. Let's say we have like a test pattern here in this half of the screen with the lower end of the grayscale responding to the game, and then in the bottom the reference. So in that way we see if the near black is too bright on the game, which is most likely if you have black level rays, that's what you're gonna see. That would be great, and have the same thing for the midtones and for the highlights would be great too. Or something even better than he can come up with to help us, you know, fix the HDR on the games, because this HDR, this definitely needs to be fixed. And by default, this game exposure setting is too bright. You see the average CLL on this game is insane. It's like over 300 nits, and that's just too much brightness. Too much brightness for this, at least for this LGC one, it's just too much. So right now with the setting I am using, for example, if I look at the average, let me move the camera. If I look at the average CLL here, this is like 70, 100 nits. Depends on the time of the day. You get 100, and that's okay. But if I change it to the default, it would be insane. I mean, this is with the exposure. Let me reduce the size of this graph over here, so you can see that. Heat, brightness histogram, color space. Let me reduce the size of this graph. So take a look at this exposure setting. I lowered this to minus 1.4, okay? But if you have this at the default 0, this is too bright. Too bright. You see the average CLL here in the middle? 280. That's insane. 280 nits. So what that means is that this scene right here, as an average, it has 200. It's trying to output 280 nits. This LGC one cannot do that. It's too much. Now if I move to this sand, it's 395 nits. That's too much. It looks kind of blown out. It's just too much brightness. So the HDR on this game, when I tested the first time, I said, man, yeah, I'm fixing it with the fine-tuned dark areas, but this looks nuclear. I mean, this looks like too bright. It's so bright everywhere. It's eye-searing. And that's why the average CLL on this game is just too much. Right now here is like 260, and most of the image is on the shadows. So this is shadows right here. All of this is shadows, but just because of this, 200 over 250 nits. That's just too much. Too much. 260, 280, too much. And it looks blown out because of that. It looks completely blown out. Especially on the recording with the camera settings I'm using right now. It looks blown out. Look at that. Right now, the average is 450 nits. That's just too much. There's no display I can do 450 nits right now, full screen. It has to be like a reference monitor. So it is too bright. We definitely need to lower that exposure. So we need to lower the exposure on the game. We need to lower the black level to make sure that we have perfect blacks. And we just need to, yeah, the tone mapping on the game is good. When you reduce the slider, it actually does perfect. Like you set it to 800, it's 800. You set it to 1000, it's 1000. So no problem with that. But yeah, this game HDR needs to be fixed, and it's gonna be a very, very nice HDR on this game, because it's a very colorful, very beautiful game. So yeah, but we need black level control, and right now I cannot fix it. I would need to use my TV settings, and I can easily fix it with fine-tuned dark areas and just by changing the exposure on the game, no problem. But I would like to fix it with this tool. So yeah, waiting for the update. Lilium told us that he's working on it, that he can do those test patterns. So it would be great if he can also do black level control for all the tone mapping options, and black level control just as a separate shader, that we can ensure that it works. And it works for auto HDR too. It would be great if we can get this tool always working with auto HDR. For some reason, sometimes it doesn't work. I'm not sure if it's the latest reshade update that has an issue, because now I tried to test Dying Light 2 auto HDR, and this was not working. This was not working even when I did this, which is basically copy this line CSP sRGB. I copy this line here where it says CSP override. It doesn't work on Dying Light 2, it was just not working. So I need to have this tool working consistently for auto HDR. And also I would like this tool to also work when I do not have auto HDR at all. So when I open the game on SDR but I have HDR on Windows, I still want to use this tool because that's how I get the brightest picture on this TV to use OLED Motion Pro. So it would be great if I can get this working, and if I have black level control with this tool, that would be great, because in that way I think I can get an even better SDR HDR trick. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions. I know, I'm not offering you a solution here other than just discovering that TAA is messing up this readings here. It's making it noisier in some games, maybe on all of games. I only tested that on this game so far. So this is not a video to offer you a solution, but I want you to come on board. I want my people here on the channel to come on board and test this because if I get feedback from you, I learn faster. That's why I make these videos, because I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room, because I am not. I'm just getting started trying to figure out this stuff. So any feedback that I get from you, if you tell me, hey, I tested this on this game, this is happening, I find this solution or I find this shader that is actually very useful, let me know, because that makes me learn faster. And the faster I learn, the faster I can come up with solutions, the more games we can fix. And yeah, I just created a folder where I am going to be copying and uploading all the fixes. So every time I fix a game with reshade for the PC, I copy the file there. So then you just have to download that file, install reshade on the game, copy that file, and there you go. The settings are gonna be there for you. So yeah, and I'm planning to do that for all the games that I play. So basically, in the future, you open that folder and you're gonna be in heaven. All the games are gonna be fixed there. You're gonna see every single, not every game on HDR, because I don't play every game, but a lot of games, definitely the most important ones, you're gonna see the fix there. So depending on your displays, if you have a different display, you might have to do minor tweakings, especially with a max CLL, maybe with the midtones. But the near black is gonna be perfect, and that's the most important thing, because if you have black level rays, you have a washed out picture, you have washed out colors, it looks terrible on any display. Okay, so in the future, that folder is gonna be gold. It's gonna be gold. You just go there, you can download everything, and I'm gonna have that available for free. I'm not going to charge for that, and that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work, but I'm not gonna charge for that, because I want to help as much people as I can. Okay, so yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions. If you have any questions, again, we have to applaud Lilium for the work he has done. This is so important for gaming in general, not only for the PC but also for the consoles. This works on the console too. So the work that this man has done is so important, and I cannot thank him enough. So it would be awesome if he can also improve and add all these new features and create this new shader, so we can make an even more use. We can use this in a better way to fix the games, actually, which is what at the end what really matters. So yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions, and if you have any questions.